I am Dr. Sunil Prakash. I am Director and Head of Nephrology and Renal Transplant Service at BLK Super Speciality Hospital, Pusa Road, New Delhi. Before going further, I would like to spend a minute how these PPIs work. All these drugs are absorbed in the stomach and they get attached and block the hydrogen potassium ATPase pump, which is the proton pump of the parietal cells in the stomach, and they go and sit in the canaliculi of these parietal cells, and as soon as these drugs come into contact with the acid of the stomach, they become an active drug. So before coming into contact with the active drug, they are prodrugs basically, and this is a class effect. So once they become active, then their effect occurs. It is very important here to understand that these drugs are given in enteric coated tablets, otherwise they will be inactivated in the stomach. So their exposure in the stomach is limited, and ultimately they go in duodenum where they are released in full amount and form. Another issue is that the newer PPIs like pantoprazole and other PPIs, people have a feel that they have much higher efficacy, they have much higher drug levels are achieved in the blood, which is true to a point. But for PPIs, we have to understand that the mechanism of PPI is particular. For example, the drug level in PPI, if it is achieved for about an hour, so even if the drug level goes away in PPI, friends, that the acid secretion it blocks for about 16 to 18 hours. So the drug does not need to be in very high levels in the blood to bring a effect, unlike the antibiotics which we are used to in having a MIC or thing like that. But in PPI you do not need such effect. So in omeprazole, the levels it achieves is less in height, therefore area under the curve will be low and the exposure time will be low and it will get out. So pharmacokinetically, although in lab studies it may appear to be inferior to the newer drugs, but in terms of therapy, in terms of suppression of acid, it is equally effective. So PPIs like omeprazole and esomeprazole etc. will block the basal acid secretion, it will block the maximal acid secretion and the gastrin release secretion also, and bring about the effect. So having understood this effect, let us go further. The advantage of PPI is that they have changed the course of therapy altogether. Earlier, 30 years back, when I was a young doctor, I was a resident in surgical wards, we used to have lot of patients who were suffering due to acid gastric diseases. They used to have peptic ulcers, they used to have dyspepsias, esophageal ulcers, duodenal ulcers, stomach ulcers, and sometimes cancers also. But esophagitis, dyspepsia, acid peptic disease were rampant, and many a time these patients had to go under selective vagotomies, non-selective vagotomies. In Zollinger-Ellison syndrome also lot of surgeries were done, and sometimes gastrectomies have to be done, gastroduodenal bypass had to be done. So these were all very big surgeries, and the patients were relatively people in their 30s, 40s. So they were undergoing very I would say deforming, scarring surgeries. But with the advent of H2 blockers and subsequently PPI, these things have become a thing of the past. So we should not forget the advantage that PPI have accrued to the practice of management of the upper GI symptomatology and pathologies. As I was saying that PPIs have brought in lot of advantage, and we have most of the time get away by medical management, but all good things have other side also. There are issues about the side effects. Any drug which has the effect will eventually have some side effects also. So the side effects which have been accrued to PPIs as a class effect are, from kidney point of view, acute kidney injury, interstitial nephritis are recently being blamed. Besides, hypomagnesemia is very important. Then there are effects like fractures, pneumonias and B12 deficiencies, to name a few. We will try to cover most of them in our webinar. So let's talk about the kidney issues first, because being a nephrologist, that is my primal concern. There have been most of the time case reports which are anecdotal, intuitive, which have implicated usage of PPIs with interstitial nephritis or acute kidney injury or chronic kidney injury, but there has not been any hard evidence To prove that a drug is causing interstitial nephritis, we have to do two things, at least one of the two things. A, we do a biopsy of the kidney and show interstitial nephritis, and which collates temporarily with the drug, or we stop the drug, symptoms resume after restarting the drug. So when you have a nephritis and the patient was on drugs, you stop the drug, the patient recovers. Although it will not be possible ethically to reintroduce the drug, but if the drug is somehow reintroduced and the patient recovers the symptoms, then it surely suggests that the drug is the implicator. There have been many case reports and anecdotal reports, we cannot go into it, but the literature reveals a major meta-analysis which was done by Sierra and Suarez et al. They had sieved through 35-40 years of literature, going through all various publications and your med consults and all those data banks, and they found 60 patients of proven acute interstitial nephritis over nearly 40 years in which PPI were given. Of these 60 patients, 59 patients recovered over 36 weeks, and it is important to note that the average age of these patients was about 75 to 76 years. So it was mostly in elderly. It is also prudent to remember that in elderly, most of the time they are on polytherapy. They are on NSAIDs for arthritis, for knees, they are on ACE ARBs for high blood pressure, on diabetic nephropathy medicines, and so on and so forth, and besides many other medicines. So it is very difficult to tease out which is causing what. But in this paper from Suarez, 60 patients were documented to have interstitial nephritis and 59 recovered. However, one patient landed permanently on dialysis. So I would say that there is some suggestion of association, some implication that PPIs do cause interstitial nephritis, and caution is always mandated. Now let us talk about the class effects, whether different PPIs have different effects. Went through a lot of meta-analysis and publications, and the best paper that we could come across was from Yang et al., who published in January 19 a meta-analysis of 40 years, based on 40 years, which covered 4,70,000 patients plus. Of these 4,70,000 plus, the authors divided them into two groups. 4,10,000 people did not take PPI, and other 6,690 people were taking PPI on a regular basis. The definition of PPI taking group was that they had to take the drug for at least 180 times, that is 1 per day, means at least for 6 months they were taking. So this group was compared to a very big group of more than 4 lakh people, and then Yang et al. Have reported a hazard ratio of 2 for all PPIs compared to people who were not using the PPI. So here there are two things: the size of the group is very small compared to a very large group, so sometimes there may be errors. But when we look inside this group, which is more important, it was found that omeprazole was very happily placed compared to pramiprazole and esomeprazole and rabeprazole. It had a hazard risk of 0.83, whereas pantoprazole had 2.1 and Rabi had 1.8 and the other drug had 1.38. So from Yang et al.'s meta-analysis, which was of nearly 7,000 PPI taking patient for at least 6 months, which defines chronic exposure, omeprazole turned out to be most friendly for the kidneys. The reason may be multiple. We are looking into the reasons. One is, as I said earlier, it is a myth that you should have a very powerful drug which has a very superior pharmacokinetics. On that account, omeprazole is inferior to esomeprazole because its availability will be like 45-50%. Some people say 35 to 50%, and rabeprazole, esomeprazole would be, even lansoprazole would be like 60 to 70% bioavailability. So it means that the area under the curve for omeprazole would be less. But friends, as I said earlier, that the explanation for this Yang study, which gives omeprazole more marks, is that you do not need to have a drug which hangs there for a long time. It is the effect of the drug which shuts off the acid secretion. So if a drug is active for even 1 hour, it will shut off the basal acid and maximally secreted acid for nearly 16 to 17 hours. And that is what we see in daily practice, that any PPI you give once a day and they covers for 24 hours. You go well into midnight without acid symptoms. So probably omeprazole was found superior because of its low area under the cuff, inferior quote unquote bioavailability because you do not require a drug which exposes to very high level in the blood. Also another point is that the pKa of pantoprazole was 4.1 and omeprazole is 3.86. To me this might be a minor point. Another very important study is Sopran study which Atwood et al. Published. Now this study's major advantage is that they have studied patients who have long term exposure of PPIs from 5 to 12 years, and there they have found that the PPI omeprazole was most effective and was not toxic compared to other drugs, and PPIs as a class also did not have very many side effects. So by Sopran study they said that PPIs do not cause any significant renal toxicity. And Makunds et al. Is the another study I want to quote. Makunds et al. Concluded that omeprazole caused much less incidence of ESKD, ESRD, that is end stage renal disease, when compared head to head with esomeprazole and as well also to pantoprazole. There may be people who may have a contrarian view because after all these are all same class drugs, but suffice to say whatever I know of is that omeprazole is a very safe drug. It has been there the longest in the market from 1989 onwards, and it has WHO approval for its usage, which is I think a major testament for its safety, and quote unquote that it is as effective as pantoprazole and esomeprazole for the reasons which we have discovered. Finally, I would like to say a very important point, friends. It is not that any drug is safe. Any effect will have obviously some side effects. It is incumbent upon the prescriber to use any drug as also PPIs like omeprazole with caution. Any drug should not continue indefinitely. There should be some time limit prescribed to the prescription. Patient should be made to understand that he cannot take it for years altogether, because in such situations the drug will get a bad name. As also patients have multidimensional problem. They have diabetes, they are aged, they have arthritis, and they sometimes take NSAIDs. We understand that NSAIDs causes worsening of medullary hypoxia of the kidneys. Kidneys already are hypoxic in normal conditions. So when NSAIDs are given, they cause prostaglandin inhibition and these kidneys become very hypoxic. And if PPIs are given to counter the GI effects of the NSAIDs, because that is what they will be given for, and then it may or may not be directly contributing to the problems of the kidneys. It will be very difficult to tease out that effect. So what is the solution? In my mind, the solution is to use the drugs prudently. Let us not get carried away by the most newer drugs that they have better pharmacokinetics, better duration of action. Time tested drugs may be safer, and above all the patients should undergo kidney tests like serum creatinine, urea, hemogram, and a 24-hour urine creatinine clearance. Creatinine clearance, serum creatinine, serum cystatin are some markers. If they are done regularly, will be able to identify any worsening of renal failure on account of any drugs, may it be PPI, may it be omeprazole, and that will give a safety net to the prescriber as well as to the patient. Thank you.